Marcus and Linda had been married for 8 years. To everyone who knew them, they were the ideal couple. Marcus was a successful investment banker who drove a sleek black car and wore expensive suits. Linda worked as a marketing manager at a prestigious company downtown. They lived in a beautiful house with a manicured lawn in the suburbs. Every weekend, they hosted dinner parties where friends would comment on how lucky they were to have found each other. Linda would smile and squeeze Marcus's hand across the table. Marcus would kiss her forehead and tell stories about their romantic vacations to Italy and Greece. But beneath this polished surface, something was terribly wrong. Marcus had been having an affair with his colleague, Jessica, for over a year. They met in hotel rooms during lunch breaks and exchanged hundreds of secret messages. Marcus felt invincible. He believed he was too smart to get caught. What Marcus didn't know was that Linda had her own secret. For 6 months, she had been seeing her personal trainer, Derek, a charming man 10 years younger than her. She told Marcus she was working late when she was actually at Derek's apartment. Both believed they were deceiving the other perfectly. Neither suspected they were both living lies. One rainy Thursday evening, Marcus told Linda he had to work late on an important deal. Linda smiled and said she understood. She had extra work too. They kissed goodbye at the door, each secretly relieved to have the evening free. Marcus drove to the Riverside Hotel where he had reserved a room for himself and Jessica. He parked in the underground garage and took the elevator to the 7th floor, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing his most confident smile. Meanwhile, Linda drove to the same hotel. Derek had surprised her by booking a romantic evening there. He said he wanted to treat her to something special. She parked her car 3 spaces away from where Marcus had parked his, though she didn't notice it in the dim garage lighting. Derek had booked a room on the 8th floor. As Linda stepped into the elevator in the lobby, she was checking her phone and didn't look up. The elevator stopped on the 7th floor. The doors opened. Marcus stood there, holding his wine bottle about to step in. Linda looked up from her phone. Their eyes met. For 3 long seconds neither spoke. The elevator doors began to close. Marcus thrust his hand out to stop them, his mind racing with excuses. Linda's face had gone completely white. "Marcus," she whispered, "what are you doing here?" I'm meeting a client," he stammered, knowing how ridiculous it sounded at 8 p.m. with a bottle of wine. "A client? With wine?" Linda's voice grew sharper. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it automatically. A text from Derek flashed on the screen. "Room 817, can't wait to see you." Marcus saw the message. His confusion turned to shock, then to anger. "Who's Derek?" he demanded. The elevator doors closed between them before Linda could answer. Linda stood frozen in the rising elevator, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The elevator reached the 8th floor and the doors opened, but she couldn't move. She pressed the button for the 7th floor. When the doors opened again, Marcus was still standing in the hallway, no longer trying to hide. Jessica had stepped out of their room, wondering what was taking him so long. She wore a hotel bathrobe and held a glass of champagne. "Marcus, what's—" Jessica stopped when she saw Linda stepping out of the elevator. The 4 of them stood in the hallway like actors who had forgotten their lines. An elderly couple walking past glanced at them curiously before continuing to their room. "Let me guess," Linda said, her voice shaking but steady. "This is your client." Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. There was no point in lying now. "And Derek?" he shot back. "Who is he, Linda?" Derek emerged from the elevator behind Linda, holding a bouquet of roses. He took one look at the scene and understood immediately. He had the decency to look embarrassed. They all moved to a small seating area at the end of the hallway, away from other guests. What followed was an hour of painful honesty. Marcus admitted his affair had been going on for a year. Linda confessed hers had lasted 6 months. Jessica revealed she had believed Marcus was going to leave Linda for her. Derek said he had developed real feelings for Linda and had hoped she might leave Marcus. The accusations flew back and forth. Who had betrayed whom first? Who had hurt the other more? But beneath the anger, something unexpected emerged. The truth that their marriage had been broken long before either affair began. They had stopped truly talking to each other 2 years ago. They had become roommates who performed happiness for their friends. By the time they finished, all four were exhausted. Marcus and Linda went home together in silence, leaving Jessica and Derek in the hotel. Neither felt victorious. Both felt empty. The next morning, Marcus woke up on the couch. Linda had locked the bedroom door. He called his office and took the day off, something he never did. Linda did the same. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table with cold coffee between them. The house that had seemed so beautiful now felt like a museum of their failed life together. "What do we do now?" Linda asked. Marcus rubbed his tired eyes. "I don't know." But the universe had already set consequences in motion. Jessica, feeling humiliated and angry after the hotel disaster, had spent the night drinking and thinking. By morning, she had made a decision. She sent an email to the company's human resources department reporting that Marcus had engaged in an inappropriate relationship with her that had affected the workplace. She included dates, messages, and details about how he had used company time and resources for their affair. Marcus's phone rang at 10 a.m. It was his boss, asking him to come to the office immediately. Meanwhile, Derek had made his own confession. He told his business partner that he had been having an affair with a married client, which violated their gym's code of conduct. The partner, who had always been the more principled of the two, was furious. It wasn't just about ethics, it was a legal liability. Derek was fired that afternoon. When Derek called Linda to tell her, she felt a strange mix of guilt and relief. She hadn't asked him to confess, but he had done it anyway. Perhaps he was a better person than she had given him credit for. Marcus came home at 3 p.m. looking 10 years older. He had been suspended pending an investigation. If Jessica pressed charges for workplace harassment, which she was threatening to do, he could lose his career entirely. "I'm ruined," he said, slumping into a chair. 8 years of building my reputation gone. Linda felt she should comfort him, but she couldn't find the sympathy. Her own career was also at risk. Her company had strict policies about conduct, and if word got out about her affair with a trainer who had access to many of their corporate gym contracts, there could be questions about conflicts of interest. Over the following weeks, the consequences spread like cracks in broken glass. Marcus's suspension became a termination. The company's investigation found that he had used company credit cards for hotel rooms and had lied on expense reports. Jessica decided not to press legal charges, but the professional damage was done. No investment firm in the city would hire him after word spread through the tight-knit financial community. Linda managed to keep her job, but the stress affected her performance. She lost a major client presentation because she couldn't focus. Her boss noticed and suggested she take some personal time. Their friends began to find out. It started with Sarah, Linda's best friend, who noticed Linda had stopped coming to their weekly yoga class. When Sarah showed up at the house unannounced, Linda broke down and told her everything. Sarah was sympathetic at first, but then Linda discovered that Sarah had told her husband, who told his golf partner, who happened to work with Marcus. Soon their entire social circle knew. The dinner party invitations stopped coming. Couples they had known for years suddenly became too busy to meet up. Some people took sides, Team Marcus or Team Linda, as if it were a game. Most just wanted to avoid the awkwardness entirely. Marcus's parents called, disappointed and confused. They had always loved Linda. How could their son have done this? Linda's mother called too, asking how Linda could have thrown away a good marriage. The shame from their families was almost worse than the professional consequences. The house, which they had bought together, became a battlefield. They couldn't afford to keep it on Marcus's unemployment and Linda's reduced commission. They would have to sell, probably at a loss in the current market. Jessica, too, was suffering. Her reputation at the company had been damaged. While some sympathized with her, others saw her as the other woman who had broken up a marriage. She requested a transfer to another office in a different city and started over. Derek had to close his personal training business. He moved back to his hometown and took a job at a regular gym. His dreams of building a fitness empire destroyed. 3 months after the hotel encounter, Marcus and Linda sat in a marriage counselor's office. They had been ordered to attend by their divorce lawyer, who said mediation would make the separation easier and cheaper. Dr. Patricia Chen was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. She listened to both of them describe the affairs, the discovery, and the aftermath. Then she asked a simple question that neither had expected. Before all of this happened, when was the last time you both felt truly happy together? Marcus and Linda looked at each other. The silence stretched out. Finally Linda spoke. Maybe 5 years ago, when we went to Portugal for our anniversary. Marcus nodded slowly. Even then, I remember we fought about something stupid. What restaurant to go to? So you've been unhappy for most of your marriage, Dr. Chen said. The affairs were symptoms, not causes. Over the next hour, she guided them through an uncomfortable truth. They had married for the wrong reasons. They had both been 30, feeling pressure to settle down. They had been attracted to the idea of each other, successful, attractive, socially acceptable, rather than to who they actually were as people. They had never shared the same values. Marcus valued ambition and status above all else. Linda valued creativity and personal connection. They had different ideas about money, about family, about how to spend their free time. They had papered over these differences with expensive vacations and nice furniture, but the foundation had been cracked from the start. The affairs hadn't destroyed their marriage. Their marriage had already destroyed itself. The affairs were just the final collapse of a building that had been condemned for years. So what was the point of all this pain? Marcus asked bitterly. If we were doomed anyway. Dr. Chen leaned forward. The point is that you're both learning this now, while you still have time to build better lives. Some people never learn. They repeat the same patterns forever. 6 months after the discovery, Marcus sat in a small apartment across town, much smaller than the house he'd lost. He was working as a financial consultant, making a fraction of his former salary. The luxury car was gone, replaced by a used sedan. But something unexpected had happened. Without the pressure to maintain his image, without the constant striving for the next promotion or the bigger house, Marcus felt lighter. He had started therapy on his own, not court-ordered this time. In therapy, he confronted truths he had been running from his whole life. He had built his identity on achievement because his father had taught him that men were only valuable if they were successful. He had cheated on Linda not because Jessica was more beautiful or interesting, but because the affair had made him feel powerful and desirable when his marriage had made him feel ordinary. He called his father one evening and told him, for the first time, that the constant pressure to succeed had damaged him. His father, surprised, admitted he had learned it from his own father. "I'm sorry," his father said. "I thought I was helping you." It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a start. Linda had moved to a smaller apartment too. She had taken the personal time her boss suggested and used it to rediscover who she was outside of being Marcus's wife or Derek's affair partner. She took painting classes, something she had loved in college but abandoned as impractical. She volunteered at an animal shelter. She made new friends who knew nothing about her past. She also faced hard truths in therapy. She had sought validation from Derek because Marcus hadn't made her feel special. But before that, she had needed Marcus to make her feel special because she didn't feel special on her own. She had been looking outside herself for worth that had to come from within. She called Derek once, months after everything fell apart. He was engaged to someone in his hometown, someone age-appropriate who shared his interests. "I'm sorry for the part one played in hurting you and Marcus," he said. "I thought I was in love, but I was really just in love with being wanted." Linda appreciated his honesty. She wished him well and meant it. A year after the hotel encounter, the divorce was finalized. Marcus and Linda split their remaining assets evenly. The house sold, and after paying off their debts, each received enough for a modest fresh start. They met one final time at a coffee shop to sign the last papers. They were cordial, even friendly in a distant way. They asked about each other's lives with genuine curiosity rather than obligation. "I heard you got promoted," Marcus said. Linda had returned to work with new focus and had impressed her company with innovative campaigns. "And I heard you started your own consulting firm," Linda replied. Marcus had taken his forced exit from corporate banking and used it to build something more ethical and personal. They both looked different. Marcus had let go of the expensive suits and seemed more relaxed. Linda had cut her hair short and wore less makeup. They looked like themselves rather than polished versions of who they thought they should be. "Do you think we're better off?" Linda asked suddenly. "After all the pain we caused?" Marcus thought carefully. "I think we're better people. Whether we're better off, I don't know. But I wouldn't be who I am now without going through all this." "Me neither," Linda admitted. "I just wish we could have learned these lessons without hurting each other so badly." "Maybe that's the real punishment for betrayal," Marcus said. "Having to look in the mirror and see who you became. That was harder than losing my job or my house." Linda nodded. She had felt the same shame, the same disgust with herself. But she had worked through it, learned from it, and emerged different. They shook hands and parted ways. As Marcus walked to his car, he realized he felt no bitterness toward Linda, and no longing for Jessica. He felt something he hadn't experienced in years: peace with being alone. Linda drove to her painting class, where she was working on a self-portrait. For the first time in her life, she was excited to see who would emerge on the canvas. 3 years after their divorce, Marcus received a wedding invitation. Linda was getting married to a high school teacher named Robert. She had met him at a community garden where they both volunteered. The invitation included a handwritten note. "I know this might be strange, but you were part of my journey to finding real happiness. If you're comfortable attending, I'd be honored." Marcus surprised himself by accepting. He brought his girlfriend, Angela, a non-profit director he had met through his volunteer work with financial literacy programs. Angela knew his whole story and loved him anyway. At the wedding, Marcus saw Linda truly smile for the first time in all the years he had known her. It was a small ceremony in a garden, nothing like their own elaborate wedding had been. Robert looked at Linda the way Marcus realized he never had, with complete acceptance and joy. During the reception, Linda introduced Marcus to Robert. There was no awkwardness, only maturity. "Marcus taught me what I didn't want in a marriage," Linda said with gentle honesty. "Which helped me recognize what I did want." Marcus raised his glass. "And Linda taught me the same. I'm grateful for the lessons, even though I wish we'd both learned them more kindly." They toasted to growth, to second chances, to the wisdom that comes from mistakes. Jessica had sent a gift but didn't attend. She had her own life now, in another city, and had learned to forgive herself. Derek sent a card congratulating Linda. He had married his partner and had a baby on the way. Everyone had paid a price for their betrayals. Marcus had lost his career. Linda had lost her social circle. Jessica had lost her job. Derek had lost his business. They had all lost time, money, relationships, and reputations. But they had gained something more valuable: self-awareness. They had been forced to confront who they were, why they made the choices they made, and what they needed to change. The real comeuppance wasn't the external consequences, though those were real and painful. The real justice was internal. The impossible task of looking at yourself honestly, accepting responsibility, and choosing to become better. As Marcus danced with Angela at Linda's wedding, he thought about the man he used to be. Arrogant, unfaithful, focused on all the wrong things. That man had gotten exactly what he deserved. He had lost everything he thought mattered. And in losing it all, he had found what actually did matter: integrity, honesty, genuine connection, and peace with himself. Linda, laughing with Robert under string lights in the garden, thought about the woman she had been. Insecure, seeking external validation, afraid to be alone. That woman had also gotten what she deserved: the collapse of everything she had built on a false foundation. And in that collapse, she had discovered her own strength, her own worth, and the ability to build something real. The cheaters had gotten their comeuppance. But it wasn't a punishment that destroyed them. It was a reckoning that rebuilt them into people capable of real love, real happiness, and real integrity. Sometimes the universe's justice is not revenge, but the opportunity for redemption, if you're brave enough to take it.